British authorities say Wednesday's brutal car and knife attack near Parliament was an act of terrorism. Understanding and responding to one of the world's biggest killers, tuberculosis. And could this reusable sponge change the way we deal with oil spills? Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Esther Gitu Ewart. Vincent Makori is off today. This is Africa 54. The Islamic State group is claiming responsibility for Wednesday's brutal attack at the heart of the British capital, which killed 3 people and ended when a police officer shot and killed the attacker, but not before the assailant had stabbed another officer to death. The area around Britain's Houses of Parliament in London became a triage scene after a car ploughed over several people on a crowded bridge outside Parliament. And in a new development moments ago, police named 52-year-old British-born Khalid Masood as the person responsible for the attack. Here's VOA Europe correspondent Luis Ramirez.
For months, counterterrorism officials have warned an attack in Britain was highly likely, and now it has happened. Moments of terror in the heart of London, an area normally crowded with tourists.
It was quite loud, and us 3 like bang, 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 and then all of a sudden we could see on the road people who started running like crazy, and I was like, what happened?
What he and others heard was the sound of police shooting the attacker, who officials say emerged from a car and fatally stabbed a police officer outside Parliament.
The attack started when a car was driven over Westminster Bridge, hitting and injuring a number of members of the public, also including 3 police officers on their way back from a commendation ceremony. The car then crashed near to Parliament, and at least 1 man, armed with the knife, continued the attack and tried to enter Parliament.
Those hit by the car included French school children on a field trip. Witnesses said 1 victim ended up in the river. The dead included the attacker who stabbed a police officer at Parliament before police opened fire on him. Only minutes after this incident outside the Houses of Parliament, London Metropolitan Police sealed off the entire area, evacuated members of Parliament. Within minutes, we learned that police were treating this as a terrorist incident for now.
The terrorists chose to strike at the heart of our capital city, where people of all nationalities, religions and cultures come together to celebrate the values of liberty, democracy and freedom of speech.
Armed police, once rare in Britain, now common and even more so in the coming days. Police say they will be on heightened alert with extra officers on the streets for several days to come. Exactly 1 year after Islamic State terrorists attacked in Brussels, in the words of a police official, this became the day that London had planned for, but hoped would never happen. Now, it is a reality. Luis Ramirez, VOA News, London.
Several major regions across Africa are hard hit by drought, and central Kenya is no exception. But it's also fraught with political maneuvers and land use issues, as northern herders have brought in influx of livestock in the area, looking for pasture and water. But many are also bringing illegal firearms, resulting in violence and recent government directive to dispatch the military to the area. VOA's Joe Craig has more.
Dead animals dot the landscape of Laikipia. Some are dying from drought, while others have been shot or speared by herders in search of pasture and water for their livestock. Ranch and conservancy owners say the herders are invading private property, breaking fences, stealing cattle, and using grass and water meant for their livestock and their neighbors. About 35 people have died in the resulting unrest.
This is not the first dry season we've had. Yeah, and when this thing happened, it wasn't a matter of drought. It was a normal rainy season when they came in. This is a politically instigated invasion, as far as we can see. They're using the cattle as a tool, as a battering ram, to just take over private property.
Many believe politicians are encouraging these armed herders to take what they want, as a way to drum up constituent support as elections approach in August.
We are very much worried because I can see this issue is political. This is not illegal grazing, this is abnormal illegal grazing. I know even for us to vote in this here general election, it's hard to for us to vote, because they want to scare us so that these illegal people with illegal arms to take over Laikipia North constituency seat.
But the herders say they are just doing the best they can to survive, given difficult circumstances.
I know I'm not doing the right thing being on someone else's ranch, and I'm not happy the way people see me negatively. But right now it is my only option because my cows are dying.
Overgrazing and lack of long-term planning are blamed for why the northern rangelands are no longer productive. The Mugi Ranch general manager says there is too much livestock for what the land can accommodate.
It's a very complicated situation because it is pastoralists who, it is their livelihood, but how one controls it and puts stocking rates in place, but it should be looked at seriously because it is a massive problem.
Kenya's government says it will send defense forces to Laikipia and other areas to confiscate illegal firearms and restore order. Local people are urging restraint, since they say they will be left to deal with the aftermath.
So they should actually come to the ground and actually appoint some leaders actually from the ground, locals from the ground, to work with the KDF so that the local will determine to determine the person who is being hunted and who is not being hunted.
While a long-term solution is key, for now people are just hoping that the rains will come soon. Jill Craig, VOA News, Laikipia, Kenya.
The International Committee of the Red Cross warns a 3 to 4 month window remains to avert a famine that could potentially kill millions of people in 3 African countries, and including Yemen. The Swiss humanitarian agency says speed is of essence to prevent a tragedy of massive proportions in Somalia, Yemen, South Sudan, and northeast Nigeria.
This is not business as usual. 20 million people facing starvation is not something that we are dealing with every day, and therefore we really need to act now. And if we act now, especially in Yemen and in Somalia, famine can be averted.
Steelheart says aid agencies and donors needed to learn the lessons of 2011, where the response to the famine in Somalia was too late to prevent the deaths of 260,000 people, more than half under the age of 5. Close to 16 million people across Somaliland, Somalia, South Sudan and Ethiopia are in dire need of food, water and shelter. The drought-stricken Horn and East Africa regions have tens of thousands of malnourished children and families. In Somaliland, the drought has decimated livestock for the pastoralist community. And joining us via Skype from Somaliland is VOA Somali reporter Abdulaziz Osman. Good evening, Abdulaziz.
Good evening. Good evening from Las Ano.
Now, give us an eyewitness account of what you have seen on the ground in Somaliland.
Well, the situation in Somaliland is very critical, and I have been traveling for the last 3 days on the different parts of Somaliland, the most hard-hit areas in Somaliland. And what I have seen is really very extreme, and I could say people are in a bad shape. The drought is actually affecting everyone in this part of the region. The nomadic community is losing all their livestock, and they have been telling me that most of them have lost close to 90% of their livestock, which they normally depend on. So the situation is very dire. There is a dire situation in Somaliland, and people and officials and everyone in here is actually raising an alarm, and they are appealing an emergency aid.
So, Abdulaziz, what has the government been able to do, or even the general community around that East African region area, or the Horn, to help alleviate the crisis, especially giving food and water to those in need?
The Somaliland government and the other Somali administrations are actually trying to cope with this crisis, but I mean, they have very limited power and resources, and they have been saying that they are trying to help out whatever they can. but I mean, they don't have the enough resources to cope with this problem. And there are a few aid agencies in this part of Somaliland who are helping out at the community affected by the drought. So they are trying their best. There are committees, drought commission, who are actually distributing food and truck water on all parts of Somaliland and in the remote area. But that's not enough, and people are in a bad shape, and they need a massive urgent to avert a famine or some catastrophe.
Right, Abdulaziz, thank you so much for your reporting.
Thank you.
Abdulaziz Osman is a reporter with VOA's Somali service. Now, the United Nations has warned of the deteriorating security situation in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Mamani Sidiku, the special representative of the Secretary General in DRC, has told the Security Council that armed conflict is a major concern.
The deteriorating security situation in the DRC remains a source of major concern. As noted in the report of the Secretary General, violence and threats to civilians are no longer concentrated in the eastern DRC. Community-based violence and inter-ethnic clashes have spread from areas already affected by armed conflicts, such as the Kivus, to Tanganyika, the Free Kasai provinces, Lomami, and Congo Central. Armed group activity in the east has also increased, particularly of late with the resurfacing of former M23 elements.
During the hearing, Mr. Sidiku also noted the political agreement reached on December 31st provides a clear path towards the holding of elections and setting the stage for the drawdown and eventual exit from DRC of the UN peacekeeping force known as MONUSCO. Now, joining me in the studio to discuss the political and security concerns in DRC is Mulegwa Zihindula. He is president of the Center for Political and Strategic Studies in DRC. Mulegwa, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me.
You know, to have a special session of hearing on DRC at the Security Council just speaks volumes about the current situation in the country. And there are so many rebel groups that have come up in the country, as we saw in the report. Clearly, something is amiss in the leadership in DRC. What is going on?
Well, I don't think this is a problem of leadership. There is no problem of leadership in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Sure, we have some problems. We're a country now, and the representative of the Secretary General in the DRC is right that violence has moved. Whereas in the past, everybody thought that violence was concentrated only in the east. Now violence has moved to other parts of the country. There's a terrorist movement in the DRC, particularly in the central part of the country, which is committing a lot of crimes in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
But Mulegwa, when you say there's nothing amiss in the leadership, I've spoken to several people from Congo, some here in the diaspora, some back in the country. And one of the things they're pointing out is that President Joseph Kabila has been quiet. He hasn't even gone to places like Kasai or Beni, where the crisis has escalated. People are being killed. Why the silence?
Well, first of all, I don't think this is true when they say that President Joseph Kabila has not been to those areas. You know, you have seen President Joseph Kabila many times make trips to places like Beni and try to comfort the people of Beni. President Joseph Kabila has crisscrossed the Democratic Republic of Congo to ensure that his people are being taken care of.
Now, let's go to the recent discovery where the UN believes that in the Kasai region, central province there, that the UN believes the government forces killed more than 84 people, and among the rebel group there. What do you know about the killings? What can you tell?
Well, it depends on what you're talking about. There was a situation where soldiers rampantly killed people and videotaped what they were doing. The activities they were doing. And those soldiers have been prosecuted. They are now under military prosecution, and once they're found guilty, they're going to go to prison. But you need to understand something. There is a lot of people right now, a lot of people outside of Congo, forces outside of Congo, who are trying to stop us from going to the elections in December. So these are the people who are behind these forces that are committing all these atrocities.
Well, Mulegwa, President Kabila said he was not going to step down after his term. We're still waiting to see whether he's going to run and see how the political situation shapes up. Thank you so much for your insight.
Well,
because we're running out of time, we'll discuss this another time. Well, Mulegwa Zihindula is president of the Center for Strategic and Political Planning Studies in DRC. We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our show live on Facebook, so check us out and share our show with your friends. Also, check us out, check our headlines at 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, a new film aims to educate viewers on the risks, prevention, and treatment of tuberculosis. Stay with us.
I'm Millar Sega. I'm the host of VOA's The Correspondents, a roundup of the world's top stories with analysis from our dedicated reporters. It's really a conversation the same way that you would bring a friend to your home and ask them what's going on. And our correspondents will do that and answer those questions through their own eyes.
That appears a false choice in more ways than one.
We can't actually put you there, but we can come pretty close. In 30 minutes, we'll show you the world.
For health correspondent Leno Mudu with the latest on the tuberculosis and a film based on tuberculosis. Leno.
Well, in light of World TB Day on March 24th, today we have an expanded look at the disease. The movie, The Lucky Specials, tells the story of a cover band from a mining town in southern Africa trying to create a new brand of African music. Woven into the narrative are messages to help audiences understand and respond to one of the world's biggest killers, tuberculosis, which killed almost 2 million people worldwide in 2015. The movie is produced by Discovery Learning Alliance and Quizzical Pictures in association with HHMI, Tangled Bank Studios, with support from Wellcome Trust, HHMI, USAID, and PEPFAR through Management Sciences for Health. Here is an excerpt.
We're going to beat this.
So what do we do now?
Treatment.
Lucky Specials are the business.
People were leaving my lap. If you don't pay me by the end of this month, that money will be my deposit to buy this place.
We're gonna lose this place, man. My uncle worked so hard to build it.
Eduardo was talking about 20,000 for 30-minute set, right?
Yeah, but that festival is happening this weekend.
Lucky Specials are back!
And joining me now is Oros Mopofu, lead actor in the movie Lucky Specials, and Harriet Gavshan, co-founder and CEO of Quizzical Pictures. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Oros, let me start with you. Congratulations on a fantastic performance. I saw the movie during the US premiere, and you really brought the main character to life as a lead character. What was it like to play Mandla, which is the name of the lead character, and be the voice of raising awareness against TB?
First and foremost, it was more than a privilege to be a part of something of such a great magnitude and that speaks so far beyond just the individual self. It's a message that speaks to a pandemic that is an issue in Africa and around the world. So it was more than a privilege, and it was exciting for me to be a part of something like that. And it opened my mind to the magnitude of the issue that we have. and the responsibility that we have to take to actually ensure that we deplete the issue and bring as much education as possible.
TB is very much a critical issue these days. And why was it important for you to take on such a project, Quizzical Pictures, the Discovery Learning Alliance, and all the partners?
Well, there's been very little done in terms of TB education. And we had done a film together called Inside Story, which was about the science of HIV and AIDS. And we thought it was important to do a film about the science of tuberculosis, so that people, in the understanding that people, if they understand what's going on inside their bodies, or they are more likely to be able to deal with it. And that's the philosophy behind the show.
So what did it take to get accurate in terms of medical and science when you are also using entertainment as a vehicle?
Well, we had an international advisory board of, of TB experts and clinicians, and our partners are all very steeped in the area. So we had huge support from that point of view. And then we have a certain expertise in using entertainment for social impact, and that's what we do. And that's what we like to do.
And Oros, in one part of the movie, there's the fact that the main character finds out that he's HIV negative, so he doesn't even worry about getting his TB test. It doesn't become a priority for him anymore. So what does this tell us in terms of the fact that TB can still be affected, people that are not HIV/AIDS infected?
Yes, the major issue in Africa is the stigma that people have around the fact that if you don't have HIV, you can't have TB, you know, or vice versa. And I think that was the major message that was being sent across there. We tried to remove him as a character who has HIV, so we can bring awareness to the fact that you can have tuberculosis even if you don't have HIV. You know, and it's a big issue. People have a tendency of wanting to neglect that as a knowledge in itself, and that's what we wanted to bring to light.
And quickly, what was it like to walk in Mandla's shoes as you were playing this character?
It was very eye-opening, because of course it made me realize that contracting the sickness and the disease itself can happen very easily. And if you can just take the necessary measures, there's so much that you can actually evade in terms of the sickness as well, and it becoming a major issue for yourself if you just take the necessary processes.
And Harriet, quickly, how is the movie being distributed in Africa?
Well, it's going to be shown on many broadcasters. Many of them are going to show it this week because of it being TB week.
Yeah.
And it's going to go to organizations and churches and clinics, and it'll be shown with facilitated groups and DVD. So I think it'll get out there.
And we want it out there. Oros, what a fantastic job, Harriet.
Thank
and
you.
You did a very great job in terms of bringing the message to life. So thank you both for joining us.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
And that was Oros Mpofu. He's lead actor in the movie Lucky Specials, and Harriet Gavshan. She's co-founder and CEO of Quizzical Pictures. Now, waste from South African mines dug more than a century ago, stretching along one of the world's largest gold deposits, has left communities exposed to radiation, contaminated dust, and water that can contribute to life-threatening health conditions like tuberculosis and cancer. South Africa's Gauteng province holds some of the biggest gold deposits on Earth. But extracting these resources has created some toxicity in part of the province. Tudoshav, an informal settlement on the outskirts of Krugersdorp, is one such area. Acid mine drainage, AMD, results from the outflow of acidic water from mines and has affected water supplies, harmful to humans as well as animal and plant life.
This community has been exposed for decades, more than a decade, to the dust fallout from the tailing storage facilities, the physical risks from open cast mining and blasting, as well as the stay on contaminated land. Some also grew their vegetables on contaminated soil. There is radon exposure. There is both the inhalation and the ingestion of radioactive dust.
Observers say residents here in Tudo Shaft have been exposed to AMD as well as other forms of pollution from mines like contaminated dust and radiation that can cause medical problems ranging from cancer, tuberculosis and skin diseases. Tudo Shaft resident Janet Machiwa says the pollution has left one of her family members dead.
My mother is dead because of this place. She died in 2007. She was diagnosed with TB also. Then they told me that that dust is inside her lungs. Then she passed away.
Authorities have been accused of not protecting residents and reacting slowly to address the pollution, but the government says it has made cleanup a priority. The National Nuclear Regulator says a cleanup project in Tudo Shaft and other areas is ongoing and that they have prioritized the operation for the next 2 to 3 years.
I think the important point is for us as an organization to do more detailed planning and get all the stakeholders in the same place and to make sure that we now projectize the cleanup of the Tudo Shaft and to make sure that we can involve all our stakeholders to ensure them that we are actually serious now.
South Africa's Water Ministry announced plans last year to charge mining firms 2/3 of the cost for treating polluted water emanating from the century-long operations in Johannesburg's mining belt. Mining firms say the charges will put the ailing industry under further financial strain. And that's our health report for today. To stay in touch, find me on Twitter at Lenore Moudou. Back to you, Esther.
Thank you, Lenore. Be sure to watch Lenore Moudou's health report every Tuesday and Thursday right here on Africa 54. And it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54. Could this sponge keep oil spill environmental crisis at bay? We'll be right back. Here's what's trending today. A sponge that can quickly soak up oil in water has been devised by scientists here in the United States. The sponge is made of polyurethane foam like that used in the mattresses. The foam's interior surfaces are covered with oil-attracted molecules that draw oil from the water. The material can be wrung out in order to be reused. The sponge could also potentially be used on a regular basis to clean harbors and ports where diesel and oil accumulates from ship traffic. And that's what's trending today. And then that's our show for today. Good night from Washington.
Welcome to English in a Minute. Most people enjoy listening to music. But is this expression actually about songs and tunes?
Music to my ears.
Jonathan, I cannot believe we have to work over the weekend.
Did you not hear the news? The meeting for the project got canceled. No work this weekend after all.
Awesome! That is music to